Hello, I'm Sabine,
And I'm Savani.
and we are the co-founders of Hidden Compass. Today, photographer and writer Ella Calland is here with us for Behind the Byline, where we introduce you to the talented storytellers from our magazine. Thank you for joining us, Ella.
Thank you for having me. It's great to talk with you both.
Yeah, it's great to have you here. Ella wrote and photographed Postcards from Cuba, which is a photo feature in our portrait department. This story explores the beautiful and emblematic images of this oft exoticized place, but it also asks the question, what happens when you try to step into the postcard?
And Ella, one of the questions or one of the lines from your story that we absolutely loved was, and I'll quote it from the story, in a land that seemed soaked in nostalgia, at times it felt like I was walking through a memory that didn't belong to me. And I think that's such a beautiful and powerful line. But I want to ask you, how did you balance the realization that you couldn't superimpose your rosy view onto this place with your legitimate yearning to go and experience it?
Yeah, so I think Cuba was such a unique travel experience for me because everywhere I've gone, you kind of have this idea of a place before this image, and it's always revised when you arrive there. And I think what was unique about Cuba was at first in the tourist area, it really felt like I'd arrived in that postcard image that I'd seen and like fantasized over for so long, actually being there. And I think then the deeper I went into Havana and the local residential areas and staying with local people, these revisions were happening on every street corner that actually, what's what I imagine Cuba to be is not reality. And yeah, it was a kind of thing I was figuring out as I went of this isn't the experience I was expecting, but it's a deeper experience in a way, and it really kind of made me understand that you can't understand a place at all until you're there. And Cuba really was that for me. And I think then I just stepped into the trip that it was and thought I can all I can do is kind of be open to the people I'm meeting and the new perspective I'm having of Cuba, and that's kind of how I tried to navigate it, and I ended up having a even more enriching experience, and I came away with a new idea of what Cuba is, but I almost couldn't. It was almost like it just kind of unraveled my perspectives to the point where something it's a place that's so nuanced, and I think that was for me as a traveler and a photographer. It was an important lesson to have, really, that you can't. I knew that you couldn't kind of capture Cuba in a travel image and in a fantasy and an idealized concept, but I think the layers that that Cuba has, and how it's not really widely known. I think I've spoken to so many people who have also been to Cuba and had similar experiences of, they really weren't prepared for the realities of Cuba to be so different from the idealized version that you kind of sign up for when you first book your trip.
Yeah, there are a lot of layers in this story, layers of realities, layers of perspectives. It really comes through beautifully in your writing. And you also photographed this piece because it's a photo feature. And you shot this photo feature on film, which is a medium that many photographers no longer use. What do you think shooting film adds to your story that might not have been captured otherwise?
I think the reason I love shooting with film is that it takes away your ability to be trigger happy for one, and also to review the photos at the time. I think it makes you really present in the moment, which I think was perfect for how I was capturing Cuba, because I was really trying to home in on the experience of Cuba and not kind of paint it with too broad a brush. And I think if I had an SD card of unlimited photos, I think I could have not looked close enough, if that makes sense. My surroundings and my experience. I just love the quality of film. It has such a texture to it, and a nostalgia which I think lends itself to the story very well.
I love that. And you know, we fell in love with these images when we first saw them, because you do capture this nuance and complexity and the feeling of being an outsider in such a unique way when it comes to a photograph. And so it is a beautiful story with incredible photographs. If you haven't read it, if you're watching this video and you haven't read the story, go read it. And if you're new to Hidden Compass, you might not know that we have patronage campaigns. So it's a way for us to bring the audience into the partnership that we have with contributors like Ella. And there are patronage campaigns that you can contribute to. And at the end of the campaign, we split the proceeds 50-50 with our contributors. So Ella would receive a second paycheck on top of her article pay. And it's a really unique situation. There are not a lot of publications that do this, and so it's a fun way for you to be part of the partnership. Ella, what would you like to say to folks who've already contributed to your campaign?
I'd love to say thank you. It means so much to know that people are enjoying the story and are wanting to contribute to it. Photography, especially travel photography, is something that is a great passion of mine, and especially with film, it's something that I do in my free time, and I invest a lot in it, and it means a lot that people are responding to the work.
It's fantastic. And Ella, thank you so much for spending some time with us today and telling us a little bit more about your experience in this story. And a big thank you to everyone in the audience as well.
Thank you so much.